Okay, we've got it. Oh, hey, hi guys, how are you? I know you, but you're new, so it's nice to see some students in the room, and then also some people who are a bit more seasoned. So that's great. So I'm sure you already mentioned what is this community all about? It's about you guys. It's about Oh, okay. So weird hearing my own voice. So it's about learning from each other. A lot of you are, Azure users, or maybe you're new to Azure, you're new to Microsoft products. So we wanna learn more about like your experiences. How are you implementing it in your organizations? How are you finding the learning experience? So this session today is with one of our community members. Actually, he's not a someone who worked at Microsoft. So, and we also had a session. Hassan, raise your hand. Hassan, thank you. Those who attended Hassan's session would know like how beneficial it was. He talked about a specific use case that he was working on, and we are open to anyone that wants to share their experience of implementing a project. We want to learn more from you, and we learn from each other. And this is what I love. This is why one of the reasons I stick in technology, because of the community. People in tech, they're so open to sharing information and knowledge, and that's how we continue growing. And of course, there's like free food later. Are we getting yellow cap today as well? That's it. Are we getting pizza today? Or is it something else? Nice, nice. Yes. So. Do we, how long do we have before the session
I
starts?
think Ashraf, because he doesn't have access, he has gone down and now he's coming up.
Okay, cool.
That's why.
So in the meantime, I just want to talk about how many of you guys have heard of the Microsoft AI Skill Fest? Raise your hand. Okay, that's great. So do you want to talk about it? I like to do this, make other people talk instead of me, because they're not prepared.
I think that they're going for a world record, right? Like 50 days of completion.
Yeah. So basically it's 50 days of modules and challenges that you can try out. So if you go up to, I'm gonna share it later. It's aiskills.microsoft.com or something like that. Just go on Bing and look up AI Skills Challenge. Yeah. So then there's a ton of challenges you guys can try. Then you get a badge at the end of it that you can post on your LinkedIn and get more people's eyes on it. So it's a great opportunity. Don't miss out on it. There's even some free exam vouchers that you can get if you can finish some of those challenges. So go ahead and try that. And yeah. So I think in the meantime, until I just want to give a chance for perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Ashraf, that you have to go down
The man of the hour. How are you?
Good.
So Ashraf here, he's going to, and I'll give him a chance to introduce himself a bit more. But he's a member of this community. He has around over 20 years of experience in this field. That's amazing. And he even has a Udemy course, you guys. So are you gonna give them discounts on the course after the session? No, just kidding. So he's going to talk all about Retrieval Augmented Generation. Raise your hand if you know what this is. Okay, no. Okay, so we got a good number of people in the audience that know. That's great. So you'll get to learn a bit more about it. And for those of you who haven't heard about it, that's totally fine. Ashraf is going to walk you over it. Clicker, there should be one here. The clicker. If not, it's fine. I'll just stand here and then I'll do it for you. And then he's gonna walk you over the thing. So
Thank you.
to you.
Fatima.
Yes, Fatima. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. So, first of all, thanks team for giving me this opportunity in the session on RAG. I'm happy that most of you are aware of this. It's a new pretty recently released concept, for example, if you may say. So in this session, I will tell you what is retrieval augmented generation. And by the end of this session, I will tell you how you can develop an application in Python implement a RAG. Okay. So as some of you have raised your hands, like let me ask, have you developed any RAG application? So I have somebody to support me if people are asking too many questions. Okay, so let's start. Sorry for being late. So I hope all of you know about large language model. who might have used ChatGPT and Mistral or whatever, Gemini and all these things. So I don't have to explain what is large language model. And I hope you also know that there are some limitations in large language model, right? So the large language model, as I mentioned here, the kind of response it gives depends on the prompt, the model training, and the task it is designed for, right? So these are the three things, or any LLM for that matter. I have a slide where I have listed like lots of LLMs available. So all these LLMs are designed or developed for a particular task. I'll explain what are those tasks. Okay, so any LLM for that matter, these three things are required to give you a response. First one is the prompt, the second one is the model's training, and the third one is the task it is trained for. So in RAG, what we are going to do is we are going to manipulate, or we are going to kind of fine tune the prompt in a simple way, right? We are going to fine tune the prompt and also the knowledge base. Okay, so now you understood what is LLM, because let's make it very simple. I know you are all very experienced people, and at least by end of this session, when you leave this place, you need to know what is RAG, and how to kickstart, right? So can you go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, so here the three main limitations in LLM is, first one is outdated knowledge, the second one is memory constraint, and the third one is factual error. So any LLM for that matter, they have been trained on a huge amount of data, and they have been trained for a long period of time, and there will be a cutoff date, right? So because if you know this, the natural language and this machine learning and all these things, you will know what are these data sets, what are these training models, and how important it is to have a huge knowledge set, to have a better training to get you a proper product, right? So one of the limitation is, in any LLM for that matter, they are trained on data up to a specific point in time and cannot access new information after that, right? And the second one is they cannot dynamically update the knowledge, because there is a cutoff date. Until and unless somebody go and update the knowledge base, the LLM will not know, right? And the third one is they may hallucinate. It's just a machine, right? So sometimes you might ask for something, it might give you some other response. So all these limitations is what we are going to fix with RAG. Now, for your information, just to give you an idea or a background, there are two types of LLM, right? All of you know about this. So there are paid LLMs and there are open source LLMs, right? So you might have used ChatGPT 3 and ChatGPT 4 and all this kind of things, right? So here, if you go with the open source, so in this particular session, we are going to talk only about open source. We don't want to depend on any of the paid LLMs, but of course, Copilot is pretty good. But here we are going to discuss about open source. So here, when you take open source LLMs, right? So there is no cost, there is no, there is no data privacy issue, because you will understand why I said data privacy. There is no data privacy issue in the sense, in RAG, we are going to download the LLM, the open source LLM, in my premises, in my ecosystem, in my network, right? So there are some tools which will enable you to download the LLMs, the entire large language model, to your systems, right? So you will have data privacy, you will have customization, and there is no vendor lock-in, right? And you can, of course, you can update you can scale the infrastructure. There is open source community support. There is a compliance over your regulatory compliance. These are all the benefits of using an open source LLM. I don't have to explain the paid one. You already know it.
Perhaps you could explain, because I think maybe we have audience members that are not aware.
Paid one is, as Microsoft is there, might have invested a lot of R&D they might have done, and I really don't know much about it, so I'm not explaining.
Great.
All right, so
We would love to pitch in and if there's
see, the idea is, why I'm saying is, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. No, I mean, how any project, just like we now start a project with open AI, okay? Now you are saying open source to go. So, but for Azure, if your project built in based on Azure, is there any way to partition, you can use the open source part to the open AI, something like this?
See,
Is there any way to make to balance of the cost? Like mostly
like for this next 1 hour, forget about everything. So just imagine we are going to develop an application. Okay, we are going to develop an application, and to give correct information, and to if we are this application using the RAG, we are going to use the LLM. Forget about the infrastructure, where you load, how you are going to, thank you, how you are going to control all these things. We will develop an application. Yeah.
Just to answer your question, there is a tool called Open where it essentially allows you to switch back and forth between models depending on what you want your models to do. Open router or router if you're American.
Okay.
Okay. So here, as he said,
Yeah. The cost point of view, I will just totally.
It lets you manage it.
Yeah.
They all have selected.
so if the question is, if suppose in my application, after developing the application, tomorrow, if instead of using Mistral, if I want to use Copilot or our Llama or Gemini, is that possible? Yes. Because what we are going to do in this program is we have declared that particular variable, that particular variable to dynamically assign values. So I will explain to that. So I don't, this is actually a complex subject, and just let's take it very slow. Because this RAG application, tomorrow, if I want to use OpenAI instead of Mistral, it is possible. The answer is yes. If I want to use Gemini, it is possible. How? We will explain it. So I'm developing an application. I can decide which LLM I should use based on the use case I'm going to use for my application. Suppose if I'm going to have this RAG application for image processing. So there are LLMs which are good for image processing. If I'm going to use for language conversion. So based on the use case, I will be able to declare the variable. I will be able to assign the value for that variable, use this. So it's that easy, right?
And also, I just want to add, so when it comes to Azure specifically, you're not locked in to just use OpenAI models. So those open source models that he's talking about, the ones that have different capabilities, you can still use them because they would need to eventually run on some sort of infrastructure, right? And then through, if you attended our previous sessions, through the Azure AI Foundry portal, there's over like, I think, what is it now, 1,900 models that you could access, use it through the Azure AI Foundry and integrate in your application. So just like Ashraf was mentioning, different models are used for different use cases, and you could use this.
Yes, exactly. And in this application, I can also use OpenAI, because I can also, if you have seen, I can go to the ChatGPT and I can get the token. And in this program, we can actually assign those tokens, and I can even use paid LLMs. It's not like this RAG application is only for open source. No. So RAG application, the idea is instead of using the LLM knowledge base, I want to use my enterprise knowledge base. I have my ERP system, I have my applications, I have my documents. Instead of going and retrieving something in their enterprise, like for example, Copilot, right? So Copilot, it can give you all the things which is in the M365, right? So if you ask anything, you will get it. And you have Copilot Agent Studio, which integrates with other non-Microsoft. So here, this application, what it will do is it will enable you to retrieve the document within your knowledge base, within your enterprise. So that is the thing. And even you can use paid LLMs. So Retrieval Augmented Generation allows LLM to access real-time or domain-specific information that is not part of their training data. Okay, so what it will do is you use OpenAI LLMs or you use Gemini LLMs, and you use the power of that LLM into your knowledge base, right? You have ERPs, you have Dynamics, you have Oracle, you have enterprise content management, right? You have all this office documents, all these things, right? So instead of using the LLM knowledge base, the external knowledge base, I will be able to use my internal knowledge base. So RAG ensures that the responses are based on verifiable information rather than solely relying on LLM's internal pattern. This reduces the risk of hallucination. And here, as we said, there is a prompt. And like always, I give, if you go to the ChatGPT, I give a prompt, I get a response. But in RAG visualization, you have a prompt, you retrieve the document. Because I don't want to send a prompt like, what is my company sales to ChatGPT? ChatGPT will not know because it does not have access to my ERP system, right? So I will take the query and I will retrieve the document which are related to my sales. and I will append this query and the document, and then I will send it to OpenAI or Mistral or whatever, right? Then you get the response. So I hope you are able to visualize this. So if you can pretty much, if you can at least understand this much, it is good. How many of you understood? Yeah.
Question. See, we have an application which is sitting inside your office, for an example, right? And you are saying you reach out to OpenAI, but how is that relation? How does it even?
That is the
No,
key.
where is the data?
That is the key. See, there are another open source framework. I just want to give a surprise. I just want to. So just wait for that. So there are some tools. It's a very open. So it's an open source tool which will enable you to download the LLMs, and the LLMs, the entire knowledge model will be there's something called as what is it called? Tokenization or there's a word actually.
Quantization. Quantization.
Quantization. So quantization, what it does is LLM knowledge model will be in huge size, right? Because just think about the ChatGPT LLM. It's like how much of the parameters. It will be in billions of parameters, right? It might have gone through that many neural networks, right? So what we are doing this is using that. What is it called?
Quantization.
Quantization. Using that quantization concept, what we are doing is we have a software called Olama. So using Olama, what I'm going to do is I will download the LLM, zip it in a form, and I will keep it in my server. Right? It could be 25 GB, 45 GB, whatever it is. Right? So it depends on the kind of parameter I'm going to choose, because any LLM, if you take, it has different parameters. Right? It has. I have a slide for you to explain about this. So based on the accuracy I need, I will download the LLM using Olama to my server. So here we are talking about an application, but it requires a huge infrastructure. It requires a huge infrastructure to actually deploy this application and run it. So here, from the application point of view, we are discussing. We're just discussing how the RAG can be done, how deploy, how you do security, how you do the networking. It's a different story. And the storage part, so also it requires a huge storage because you are going to connect all your knowledge bases, right? Till here.
Very basic question. See, I'm new to this. So when you say you download LLM, meaning you are downloading the logics?
I download the parameters.
The parameter.
Yeah.
Is it a knowledge-based database?
It's a file. There's a file extension. So I will show you. Actually, I will show you where it is and
At the
how.
end of the day, you need to have some logic to be able to query something. Right?
Yes.
That program or the logic itself, right?
Yes.
You probably use that locally.
Yeah.
And then query your local data.
Yeah. So that's what. So here we download the LLMs to my system, and there is another concept called as LangChain. So I'll come to that. So what you need to understand when we talk about RAG is, in the normal context, when you talk about LLM, you send the prompt and you get the response. When you come to the RAG, what it does is it has a middle layer which will actually get the knowledge which you are actually looking for. So you give the prompt. You give the prompt like, I need my sales report. So the RAG, RAG application, what it does is it will actually get the relevant document based on the query you send, and it will append that document and the query, and it will send it to the LLM which you have downloaded. It can be offline also, right? So that is what actually RAG does. So how it will be done, we will explain, and I will show so this much, all of you are clear, right?
I'll explain it a bit more, just to clarify. Consider that when you are reading something, like all the models is that when the data is used to train it, it remembers what is being trained on. Okay, similar to your brain. You have neurons, you have connections. Okay. If, for example, I know the name of someone, I'll remember it. Okay. So that is when you train it, the model is actually remembering that stuff because it has already seen that data. Okay? And that is when Ashraf was saying about the downloading. Consider that you are downloading your brain. It is just the logic, not the data itself, but what you have memorized. Okay. So usually in a neural network, it's just a big parameter. It's a mathematical formula. Like, for example, if you remember from your mathematics background, a system of linear equations. Okay. What it is, you want to have an output which is y, and then you have like let's say infinite parameters, x1, x2, x3, x4, and the parameters what Ashraf is talking about is the b parameters, b1, b2, b3, b4. If you remember, it's from all like the metrics and the metrics calculation, it is exactly the same. So when you download it is this formula, but the formula is so big that the parameters are in billions. Okay, and that is when you download it, you just download the intelligence. But it is trained on, let's say, 1 year old data, because the internet is constantly upgrading. So it will not know about your corporate data or the data which is on the latest one on the internet. So what Ashraf is saying in the RAG, now the latest data either or your corporate file, like private data, you want to add it, but it has not seen it. So how do you remember it? I have to give you the book. Like if I ask you that you have to do a test, and let's say you are intelligent, you already know how to do a test. But I'll give you a new book. Let's say I take a book for someone, and I just say that I'll be testing you on this one. But when I ask the question, I just say go to page number 10 and tell me the answer from there. You will read it and give me the answer. So the RAG is the same thing. What Ashraf is saying, I'll give you a new book, but you are already intelligent enough. I'm just giving you a new book to retrieve the data from the which you haven't seen before.
Yes. So this much is clear, right?
You had a question.
Yeah,
Okay.
So now we are going to discuss about two key elements in RAG. One is the retriever and the second one is the knowledge base. So as we already discussed, when a user sends a query, the retriever component comes into place, and the retriever will go to your knowledge base, as he mentioned, to that new book which you have given, and it will retrieve the most suitable information for that query. Right. So there is another concept called vector embeddings, vector database, which we will discuss. But here, when we see retriever component, what it does is, I am sending a query to, instead of going to the LLM, I'm sending the query to the retriever. Retriever will stop my query. It will take the query and it will go and fetch the most suitable information for that query. Like if you are asking who is the highest paid employee in my company, so it might have to go to the HR system, right? So otherwise, if I'm asking what is my sales report, so it will go and fetch that particular knowledge based on the query, and it will create a prompt. So here, just want to, because these are all very vast subject, okay? So I just want to make it very simple. So here, there is a concept called as vector embedding. So if you see, I'm saying in the previous slide that I'm sending a query and I'm going to retrieve the most suitable information. How it is possible, right? How it is possible, because we know select star, we know all these RDBMS queries and all these things. So here we are using a concept called as vector embeddings, which what it does is it converts that particular name to a number. Okay, so if in this case, if you see, there are three different files. For example, one is related to the forest, one is related to the satellites, and one is related to the sports. So this you think about, like one is your finance system, one is your supply chain, and one is your HR system. For example. So based on the actual word of that particular document, it will be converted to a number, right? And that number will be, like you might know about the indexing part, right? So this word will be converted to the number and it will be stored in a vector database. So there is a process called as embeddings, vector embeddings. So vector embeddings, what it does is, your knowledge base, all your ERP system, all your documents will be converted to a kind of a number vector notation in a vector database, which will enable the system to retrieve the most suitable information. So just imagine I have this document. So now if somebody is querying for something related to the aerospace, so it does not have to go to all this huge document management system. It will go and fetch those documents which are in the query and it will pull those information. Please stop me anytime, because end of the day, our objective is you should know. So anybody, if you want to contribute something, you can. Yeah.
So it just uses like text similarity, yeah?
Yes.
I'll enhance a bit more on this. When you have text, okay, you look for query pattern as an example. Okay, so if I just say cat, dog, table, and these are separate documents. When you just say tables, okay, it will just go to the table because you know that it's that's how our mind works. Okay, but computer doesn't work like this. You can do like a Spark query, but what it does under the hood is just convert it into numbers. So the vector means that every word or every sentence become a vector representation, and the vector is like either 1,000 different tuples, or it is 1,534, I think, or it's like 3,000. Okay, there's different vector sizes. The vector represent actually the meaning of it. So if you just say a white table, okay, and then you just say that, for example, I want to look for something on which I can put a T. Okay, now this word is not in the context, but the vector similarity you already know. What do you mean? You change the wording, there is no table, nothing in there. But from the context, you know what you are looking for. So that's the beauty of the vector embedding, that first it converts into numbers and the computer works very fast. If you do it on strings, it will be very, very messy. Okay. And the other thing is it will retain the semantic meaning. Okay.
Like, is there any method of it? Like,
Yeah. So this is not the research topic, but I think, yeah.
So this is a small demo, like small application. Here, if you see, these are my words, like as you mentioned, eyes, nose, mouth. So here, if you see, this is just to give you an understanding about how these vector embeddings are grouping this similar pattern of words, right? So for example, if you see here, I have mentioned eyes, nose, mouth. These are all words, right? Car, chair, table, all these things. So here, what I'm going to see is, see here, it has identified all these words and it has grouped, for example, eyes as nose as one group, right? And it has grouped, this guy is in another group. And if you see bed and chair and this then car and table and all, it has grouped separately. So what it is going to do is, based on the words you are storing in your vector database, it will convert that word to a number and it has the logic to identify that what actually that word means, and it will group it in the form of a number, right? So that's what vector, this is just to give you an idea. There are a lot of solutions for to store vector database. Like for example, Pinecode is there. A lot of different open source as well as paid databases are there. So now we understood that we have knowledge. We are going to store our knowledge to a vector database so that the documents or the data or the words in that particular knowledge will be converted to vectors, so that when a person is querying for something, it can go and retrieve that particular document based on this vector embeddings. So here, this is just to explain a little more. So I have a lot of documents, like for example, I have millions of documents. There is another concept called as chunks. So instead of loading the document, like if I have a page of like document of 1,000 pages, instead of loading this document as 1,000 pages, because then it will not be able to give you the correct numberings, right? So I need to divide the documents into small chunks, right? So this document will be split into different chunks, and each chunk will be converted to an embedding, and that embedding will be loaded to the database. So now here we are talking about my entity or my company, my document. So I'm going to do the first step. What is the first step? I need to load my document to vector database so that my documents will have a numbering for that document so that I can retrieve it when I search for that document. Yes.
How about privacy? How can we maintain privacy of the?
See here we are, what do you mean? See, privacy in the sense here we are not using any application which are published on the internet. Here, for example, which company you are working? Yeah, so for example, I'm working in Hamad, right? So Hamad, I have two options. One is, of course, we have a very good solution from Copilot. It will make your life easy. You can just use the Copilot. It will keep all your security on intact, and you can use it. So what we are doing is you are going to use an application which is already available in the internet. With RAG, with this, even Copilot is using RAG, or our Copilot Studio and all, the behind the scene, they are using RAG. Here, what we are doing is I'm developing an application and I'm connecting to my knowledge base. Like I'm going to connect to my, like for example, in my computer, I have a C drive. So this application I'm going to develop in my network, and I'm going to connect to my C drive, and I'm going to pull the data. And when the management is asking for something, I'm going to retrieve the document from this application and giving it back to him. So here you don't even need an internet, for example. It's like too much to say, but yeah.
For this example, close this example. What kind of phone you use? iPhone or Android? Android, right? Let's say you open Google Photos, which you have uploaded, right? Google Photos does this segregation for you. You can just search for what you're looking for. Let's say you search for cat. how does it know what exactly you're looking for into the images? They're doing something similar to this. They categorize them and they kind of group them together so that whenever you search for the relevant word, it knows what you're exactly searching for to give you the examples. Imagine that working right now without even internet. If you're using Samsung Gallery, you can do that. It happens within your phone. So it's private, but it's happening within your local device.
But do they have access to the?
If you're giving them, yes.
Oh, yes.
No, but I think maybe
But this is not.
the question is different. Can you just explain exactly what you were concerned?
There is a third party. You mean like there is a manager or something that we are allowing him to do the relationship between retrieving and like asking about something. So is the third party being having the access to the data that we are retrieving?
If you're using a third-party model, for example, let's say you're using ChatGPT, right? You're using a paid model. You're uploading your photos to it. Just for the context, I think the latest trend, the Ghibli trend is happening, right? From the people are uploading the photo contents.
Yeah.
No, I think the question is, the developer
Putting your private information
who
out.
is going to develop this application, will he have access? That is our question, right? But see, the developer you are hiring, that is your person. And even that developer need not be seeing all these documents. You can actually have your development environment, pre-production environment, production environment. So this segregation and all will be there. So he will not see, for example, in the current setup, how many of you are developing reports using Power BI and all these things, right? So how you develop it? So you will be loading those data which you need, and you will develop that application, and you will move from dev to pre-prod to prod, right? You got my point. Because here, yeah, you want.
I just want to explain that most of these models, this is like a memory, okay? But the guarantee is that it will not retain anything in the memory. What I was saying is that initially the internet data there is a discussion on the internet data as well, whether whatever these models are trained on, whether that data can be used or not. Okay, that's a separate debate. But consider that we have taken the internet as a public data. The model has already done it. Now what we are talking about here, this is your corporate data. Okay, your corporate data, when you put into a vector database, this is your own private database. The model will not know it. Even if you call a question and when the model is using it, it is just temporarily using it. It will answer you, but it will forget about that data. Okay, and all of these compliant thing until you actually train the model, the parameters are updated, which we talk about the first one, that you download the model. Okay, you have to explicitly train it. And then some company will explicitly ask you if they are going to use your data, they will explicitly ask you that we are using this or not. The open source community, if you use the model or you use the paid one, it will not take your data out of the box. It cannot understand, like just giving an example of the Azure OpenAI. It explicitly say the model will not look into the data, the model will not train on your data. Whatever you have, it is your own data. Okay? It is just using the model in your private environment. And it's not retaining it that, for example, you use this model and suddenly Ashraf's model automatically got updated. No, it is your own private module.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ashraf, if I'm interrupting, but
Let's make it like this. I really appreciate that. Thanks. Actually, just imagine that you are running a pharmacy. Okay, so pharmacy, you are the owner of that pharmacy, and like for example, Kulut, right? And you have 10 branches, right? And you need to kind of use our ChatGPT kind of an application in order to ask various different questions. Like I have my pharmacy, I have my business, I have my employees, I have my drugs, I have my expiry dates, I have my sales, all these things from the pharmacy business point of view, you need to think. So as an owner of that pharmacy, like you might have different KPIs to ask. What is my business in Al Rayyan, right? What I should do to get more business in, for example, West Bay, right? So as an owner of the company, your questions will be very strange and weird, right? Because you think about numbers, how to increase the cost. So you have two options. One is you have an enterprise license from, for example, Copilot or ChatGPT 4, and sign all the agreement that they will say that they will not use this data for anything, which they will not, of course. And you give your documents, their LLM, the access to your documents, and they will use the LLM, the power of the LLM, and it will answer all your different types of queries. right? So you might ask, who is the most, who is the like what is the age limit of the people who are buying these kind of medicines? Like different KPIs, right? So this is one option to give your document the access to all these enterprise companies, okay, and you accept their license agreement and you get the application. You get the chatbot, you get a mobile app, you ask the questions. The second option is you develop everything in-house. You don't sign any agreement. You develop the application. You pull the LLM from the internet. You download it in your computer, in your server, where nobody has access. Only you and your developer. Only 2%. Only the most. You will hire the most trustworthy developer in your company, right? Or you might develop yourself. So just imagine the kind of people who are having the access and the kind of security you have. And of course, there are a lot of pros and cons. Okay, this will make your life very easy. This application developing in house, the RAG is not something we are talking about developing an open source application. No, RAG is a concept which is used in all this Copilot or Gemini or all these things, which will enable you to use your knowledge base also as a data set.
Yeah, so which means you are using your database.
Sorry?
Which means you are using your database.
Yes, my database only, right? I have my Oracle system, I have my Microsoft Dynamics, I have my SAP system, all these application, all these database I have. So all my business data are stored here. Like for example, in the pharmacy example, in Alrayan, I'm using Microsoft CRM, right? So there I'm storing the data in the Microsoft CRM system. And in West Bay, I'm using Oracle ERP system. So all these different systems I can use as my knowledge base. Because the other option is like if I go and ask ChatGPT will not know because this is not in their knowledge base. Your ERP system is not there in their database, right? So other option is I use Copilot Enterprise version and I give them access to my knowledge base, which is only as of now we can easily connect to the Microsoft ecosystem, or you use Copilot Agent Studio to connect to other third-party applications.
It has to be continuous because day to day your database is being updated.
Yeah,
so the training has to be continuous.
Yes, you have to update the knowledge base.
Do we have?
But this will be automated actually, right? You don't have to read this. We can automate, and there will be a scheduled activity. There will be an event at like for example 11 p.m. every day updated. You don't have to manually show that.
What about the cost?
That is the beauty. So cost is there is no cost, right? I'm using open source LLM. I'm using Olama to download my LLM. I'm using LangChain, which is open source. I'm using Pinecone is a vector database. It's a paid one. So here we are going to the cost involved to develop a RAG application like this is very minimal.
And servers and
Yeah, of course.
that will be comparatively.
That you need. Infrastructure side, I'm not discussing. Of course, you need infrastructure to deploy the application, security, network, and all these things. And you need high availability cluster and all these things. I'm just talking about the token price, right? Because when I use Copilot or our ChatGPT API, I have to pay for tokens. Like the prompt I'm going to send and this RAG, see, don't think about RAG as something which is an open source. I just want you to understand the concept that we can also develop RAG application by ourselves, right? So if you go to Copilot Agent Studio, they are using behind the scene RAG, and that's a much complex setup, and it's much more user friendly and much more secure and all these things. So here the objective is not to highlight the importance of open source. The session is about RAG. So I want you to understand what is RAG. Right? There are two ways. One is you can use open source or you can use paid. It's nothing wrong. And as you said, paid if you use, I don't have to worry about infrastructure. So when you do the cost comparison, maybe the Copilot will be cheaper. I don't have to take the responsibility of the infrastructure. I don't need a team to knock all these things. I don't need. So that way, if you that is another point, right? So here we are not. This is not a marketing for open source solutions. This is a session to understand the RAG concept.
Sorry, is it suitable for discrete applications where the information is sensitive? Like if it's for defense information?
We can actually have this RBAC and all the security layer in place. So we can actually enforce that, okay, if somebody is querying for sales report and if he's not from this group, the security group, don't give him the response. This kind of things is possible.
But that is like,
To add to this, yes, it is, because a lot of places like this have their own infrastructure,
Yeah.
which means you can't deploy something like an OpenAI model unless you get OpenAI to set up that on your own infrastructure. So yeah, open source models would be a good fit for that.
but will it work with the encrypted data?
You'll have to obviously unencrypt it and
Then
then do
expose
everything, yeah.
Again, if you take Copilot, it's a very good solution, but there is a limitation when it comes to non-Microsoft ecosystem, right? But of course, there are plugins, there are APIs. It is possible. So as I said, this session is not to explain the magic of open source. No, we have a concept called as RAG. What we need to understand the concept and the possibilities, the options. As ma'am rightly mentioned, even if you develop entire thing in-house, there's a huge cost and responsibility on the infrastructure side, which you have to take care. For the other one, you don't have to. What is the time? You have a time.
Just make it screen.
The
text are so small.
Yeah, so this one.
Coming nothing. Think in setting.
Just this one. So this one I just gave you to give you an understanding about.
Chunking is a mandatory step, or
Yes, chunking we'll do it in our program.
so we just have one file, or one large file rather than having multiple.
See, then again you will not get the accurate response, right? Because I'm uploading all the documents and the embeddings and all. See, there is a step in our application when you develop. Before connecting to the LLM, the vector search you said, right? We actually do the vector search to see the response from the vector database. So if the vector search is not giving the right response, it's just normal question you will ask, you will search for some document or search for some context in the document, and you will see whether it is giving the right response. So there you need to do the tuning. So if you don't chunk it, you will not get the right, and you will have to chunk it. Then only you will go to the next step.
I'll give an example. Can I just follow this problem for you? So consider that I asked you a question, okay? Let's say you are looking for what is my name, okay? And my name is written in this book. Okay? If I give you this whole book and I just say find my name, okay? You will look for each and every one, okay? That's the example that if you have the whole file. But consider for chunking that you rip apart each and every page, keep it separate. And when you just say, what is my name? It will give you this one page. The name is on this one. So that is the chunking that you separate each and every one. Because the memory cannot retain all of the things. The memory can retain it, but then you have to pay so huge amount for the data that is better to chunk it because your questions will be very crisp for particular information.
It's not a very large file. Would you think?
Yeah, that's fine. No, yes. If your whole file is less than, let's say, maybe 30,000 words or 20,000 words, you don't need to chunk.
See, if you have a file which is 30,000, you don't need to just control F and you'll get it. I mean,
What if we want to integrate it in our application?
then you have more documents. Then you have to chunk it. When you're saying if you want to integrate with other system, then you are saying you have more data sets coming.
Yeah, because sorry, but I had this doubt because I created a web application in that. I did use chunking, but then I tried without chunking as well. It was giving few errors, but then it was somewhat
Okay.
it was accurate.
So see, it depends on if the log files is it's not a mandatory step to say. No? So if you any LLM for that matter, there's a step called tuning, right? So that's all about it.
And there's a trade-off on chunk
How much
size
profit?
and on
Yeah,
chunk
how much?
size, yeah. Because if you have a very big chunk, you'll bring in a lot of context and around the surrounding area as well, which might improve your retrieval result. But that will increase the cost because you're going to pay extra tokens for that, right? But if you have a smaller chunk, you could miss a really important context around that. You could, take half of the page and you actually need all of the page. So you have to, as you said, basically do tuning to work out for your problem what makes sense.
Yeah. So this slide is about just to give you an understanding about the different LLMs currently available, right? You have GPT-4, Claude, LLM, Bloom, all these things. So I added this again. This is from ChatGPT. Okay. So a disclaimer. Now I added this we need to have this understanding, because if you are going to develop a RAG application, you need to know what are the different LLMs available and which LLM I should choose for my use case, right? I need to know what are the strengths, what are the, what is it best for, whether it is open source, whether it is paid. So this is one prerequisite you need to have before going to develop a RAG application. Because end of the day, our brain is, as he said, we are going to download the brain, right? So I need to choose which brain I need to download. For that, I need to know what are all these LLMs available, and what are the strength of each LLM, and what are the purpose for which that LLM is developed, right? So this is just a slide. I can share it with you. This is again another slide. I think he already explained about this. Just to give you an understanding, because some of you might have not seen about these parameters. There's a concept called as parameters. Like you see, there is a slide where, see, for example, GPT-3, it has 175 billion parameters. So I just want you to have a feeling of what are these parameters, right? Just imagine 175 billion parameters. So any what's that called, neural network, when you develop an application, here what is happening is you have an input layer and you have an output layer, right? So you give, for example, I'm going to develop an application to see whether a person coming is coming with mask or not. I'm going to develop an AI application. The use case of that AI application is that application will integrate with a camera, and it will see the face of the person. And if the person is wearing mask, it will connect with the door and it will open. If he is not wearing the mask, the door will not open. So this is the AI camera. So here I'm going to train my model. Right? Just imagine like this. So I'm going to develop this application. I'm going to train my model. So when I'm going to train the model, what I need to do? I need to upload millions of images with mask, without mask, with mask and specs, with masks and hijab, cap. All these things I have to upload, right? So just imagine, this is my input layer where I'm uploading these images. Okay, so I will upload different types of images, and I will go to this hidden layer. Hidden layer is a point where it will see the image and it will give you a response. So most of the time, when you say, if you have a neural network and if you have only 2 layers, or for example, 1 layer, it will not be able to identify. So so here, if you see, just I want you to have that feeling of that billion parameters. Okay. So here, this node is there. I have 3 nodes here. So here, if you calculate, if my model has input layer, hidden layer, and output layer, the number of parameters is 3, 1, 2, 3 node into 4 plus 4. 4 is for bias, just a formula. Okay. So here, this particular model, this particular LLM, if you see, for example, how many parameters it has? 16 parameters, 16, 1, 6, that's it. Now, if I add one more layer, how many parameters it has? This plus this, right? And if I go to all together, 16 plus 20 plus 5, that is 41 parameters are there in this model. So here I'm going to upload the images. I'm going to the first layer. I'm going to the second layer. I'm going to give the output. So if I develop a model with this 41 parameters, will I get an accurate result? Of course, no. Right now, imagine about this kind of parameters, 1.3 billion parameters. How many hidden layers will be there? Right? How many hidden layers will be there, and how accurate the response will be? So as I said, when you download the LLM, you will mention the parameter name. Like for example, each LLM has different parameters. So if I don't have much space, and if I'm just doing for a POC, I will download an LLM with few parameters, like 1 billion parameter. I don't want to have 20 billion parameters, right? So when you pull that LLM in the Olama, if you mention the parameter, the size of the file will be only that much. So, but the layers will be less. So this figure is clear, right? So because I was this slide I prepared for my understanding, so I'm just sharing with you. So when I get into each and every topic, I will have doubts. So I do the research, and I thought this is the best slide to understand about the parameter, that concept. So here you have small language model, large language model, and extra large language model. All of these have different parameters. So small language model 1.3 large 175, extra large 530, right? So each one of them are developed by different companies and for different purpose. Now the problem, what is the revenue of my company this year? So if I don't have a RAG and if I ask this question directly to the LLM will say, I don't have this information because your knowledge base I don't have, right? Now I asked actually some time back when I prepared this slide, what is the GDP of Qatar? Because somebody said that initially we used to say 2020 to 2020 was the cutoff, and if you ask ChatGPT where FIFA is held, he doesn't know and all these things, right? But now he knows because it has trained for a little more time. But I asked as of today, what is the GDP of Qatar as of today? This is a screenshot from ChatGPT. He said that I apologize for the confusion because he gave me some data. When I asked, this is the second prompt actually. He gave me some data and I asked as of today, tell me the GDP. Then he said that I apologize for the confusion. Unfortunately, I do not have access to real-time data and it has given a cutoff date, January 2025, right? So as of January 2025, this is the GDP of Qatar. Here the point is, it's not able to actually get into the Qatar documents and retrieve the real data because it is not having the access. Now, this is how the large language model goes. You have a prompt. You give the prompt to the LLM, any LLM for that matter. You have seen all this list of LLMs, and the LLM will give the response. So here the LLM will use its knowledge base. So limitation of LLM when used in respective domain, as I said, the knowledge cutoff date does not have real-time information, does not have access to your enterprise data. So here, till here, everything is clear, right? Now, we will see how actually it works. Okay. So here you have the enterprise data. So I hope the RAG concept is clear, right? So now our objective is to point the knowledge base from the external system to our internal knowledge base, internal data. So here I have my enterprise data. The first step in developing a RAG application is I need to upload, I need to convert my enterprise data as vector embeddings, and I need to store it in the vector database. That is the blue line, right? So in the RAG, first step is all your enterprise data. What all are your knowledge source? You need to identify it. You need to have an embedding model, convert that document to embedding and store it in the vector database. Use embedding model, enterprise data will be converted to vector embeddings and it will be stored in the vector database. This is the first step, right? So again, in Python, you have all these libraries on how to do this. It's not a big thing. Okay. So this is the first step. Till here, everybody is clear, right?
Down here. What about the orchestrator over here? Can we see?
I'm coming to that in the next step. So this is the first step. So just focus on the blue line now. So this blue line, what it does is, using embedding model, enterprise data will be converted to vector embeddings and will be stored in the vector database.
Can you give some like library names?
I will show you. Actually, what I did is, because it's my laptop, right? So I downloaded Mistral and I have some PDFs. I put it in some folder and I did convert it to embeddings and I used my in-memory as a vector database. And I used LangChain and I did the search, vector search. And then I appended using LangChain, I appended this with the prompt and said,
Must have used it specific.
I will show you the entire. I can even send this to you. Okay, so now, first step is clear, right? The second step is the orchestrator. So now you have all your document in your vector database. Just imagine that my document has been converted to vector embeddings and it is stored. Now a person, my CEO is asking some question, right? So the orchestrator point will come. The orchestrator, what it will do is, it will take that question and it will go to the embedding model. Okay, embedding model will send that question to the vector database. And see here in this vector database, I have my sales data, inventory data, employee data, everything. But this CEO is asking what is the sale of 2024 October. So it will go and search the sales database. It will go to that particular table and it will retrieve those information which are related to that query. And it will send the top k nearest neighbor vectors back to him. Okay. Based on the user question, relevant data is first retrieved from the vector database and a prompt is created which is made of the original user question and the retrieved contextual data. So my question is, what is the revenue? My knowledge base is the sales table, for example. Then what happens is this prompt is sent to LLM. So there is a concept called as LangChain. LangChain, what it does is it will take the prompt. Okay, it's just a concept. We can implement using some libraries. You can develop it. I will take the prompt. I will go to the vector database. I will take the response, and that response I will send it to LLM. So that how we will do it. I will show you. So this is the third step. So first step we understood, that is the first blue line. Second blue line, if you are going and getting the document. Third blue line, the response is sent back to the user. So what is embedding? So now we already discussed a little bit about it. Embedding enables us to quantify the semantic similarities between the words or sentence, which helps us with retrieving the most relevant data or for the user question. So you need to imagine that all your documents has been converted to vector embeddings. That means it has a number representation and it has grouped that document based on the context of that word into different segments. That this, you remember that ear, nose, and all these things, right? So that actually you can even visualize. There are some tools to visualize how it is represented, and even you can see the numbers. So there are two things: retrieval augmented generation, right? So one is retrieval and second one is generation. Retrieval, what it does is using embedding model to search a database for pre-compiled vector embeddings of the user query to find the most relevant information. You remember the first blue line, right? The second one is take the original query and the retrieved information and send it to LLM to generate the response. So this is right. So one is retrieval. In retrieval, what it does, it will retrieve the most suitable knowledge or the document of that particular user query. In generation, what it does is it will append the document and the query and it will send it to whichever LLM you have declared you have assigned into your variable. So sometimes I might use Mistral or OpenAI or Gemini or whatever, right? So the prompt is gone. The most suitable document is retrieved. Prompt and document is sent to LLM. So what LLM will do? LLM will give the output. LLM will use its brain. Now, we will stage. This is already. Okay, now let's come to Olama.
Time in Lucerne to harmonize it.
Sriya. Sometimes react here too. So Olama is a very key point which we need to understand. If you are developing the RAG application in-house, if you are going to use any enterprise application which is available, you don't need to bother about all these things. If you are going to develop a RAG application in-house with your team, first thing what you need is Olama. So Olama is a framework for building and deploying machine learning models in more efficient and streamlined model. What Olama does is, if you go to this website, you can download the exe file, and there are some commands to pull the LLMs. You can say open, there is some command, Olama pull something Mistral, it will download. Olama pull OpenAI, it will download. So what it does is, it is downloading the brain of that particular LLM into your machine. So I will show you that. Then this is a small language model. Actually, I started with this 5 because I don't want to, exhaust my system. Then I used 5 and then I changed to Mistral just to see the response. So it was different because 5 has a very limited parameter. If you remember the parameter, it's a small one. So a small language model developed by Microsoft as a transformer-based model with 1.3 billion parameter, specifically tailored for basic Python coding tasks. So if you want to do a POC and to show to your management, you can use this. Now, different types of language model. I think I have already discussed about this. Just mentioned the vendor name. There should be some reason why I added this. I forgot why I added. This is just to make you understand there are different types of language model. I think this one also we have discussed before. Now, another concept called LangChain. So what and all we understood? We understood vector embeddings, vector database, Olama, we understood RAG, and the thing which is connecting all these things, right? Olama will only help you to download the LLM. What actually is connecting all this thing is LangChain. LangChain is another framework you can install in your Python. There's a package for it, CPI. If you install LangChain, you can install it. What it does is it will enable you to take the query from the user. It will enable you to send it to the vector database. It will enable you to retrieve the knowledge. It will enable you to connect both this, and it will enable you to send it to the LLM.
Create generally the multiple agents.
Yeah, somebody was asking about the orchestrate.
That's the one. That's all.
Which talk internally with each other.
Yes.
And once task is performed, then it will.
Yeah. So this I will show you in the code.
But the downloading of the LLM is one time.
But if you want to get the latest one, then you will have to schedule it. So see, downloading LLM, you will keep it in one place. For example, right? In my program, I will mention the LLM which I have downloaded. So you can actually update this LLM. You can schedule like some kind of a PowerShell script. You can do it, and you can update this LLM. But this program will not. Program will just go to that place, and it will. There is a file actually. It will retrieve the file.
What's the LLM file itself?
Yeah.
So
LangChain just want to tell you that here, just forget about that previous screen. Here, what is happening is the LangChain as an orchestrator I have just explained. Because the prompt is coming to LangChain, LangChain will send that query to the vector embedding model, and from the vector database, it will retrieve the most suitable information, and LangChain will connect this prompt and the knowledge base, and it will send it to the LLMs. It could be Llama 2, OpenAI, 5, Mistral, or whatever, right? So this is for this. Now, I'll just show you the app. So till here, everybody understood, right? So all of you should develop one application and show it to the manager. But as she said, infrastructure is the thing. So that also you need to do the cost analysis.
And I'll explain on the infrastructure. Like a lot of time, I like open source, but I'm not very good with open source. Ashraf has a different opinion, but consider that these GPT models, consider you have 40 GB of model. Okay, the first thing is it will not run on a normal machine. You will have to have a GPUs.
No, we already agreed that.
Yes.
We need
The second thing is, but I should have said already, the GPUs need to be then highly available because it's not a single machine, right? It's a single point of failure. Then if your demand is increasing, you need to have like multiple clusters of it. And it's just the inference part. If you're doing the training on your own, then you require a whole GPU. That's why the discussion was initially what like Ashraf presented on the parameters. The parameters decide how much compute power you need. And that's why the stock price of the GPUs and NVIDIA was going up. And then when DeepSeek comes in, because it changed the algorithm that with limited resources, you can train these models. And that's why the things crashed as well. So this is the thing, but also the security part, right? Like the open source model, some of the enterprises, they like open source, but sometimes they don't have the resources then to have the manage the models. If there is a bug or something, you have to rely on the open source community. You have to open the model. You have to fix that yourself, or rely on the community, or wait for the release because you don't.
Just like we create a ticket with Microsoft support. Yes. The community and Microsoft both are same. One is paid. Microsoft support will help you. Yeah. One is community. Yeah. We are not talking about that side here. Yeah. Again, on the infrastructure part also, the kind of infrastructure and the GPUs used in Copilot, right? Do you think just you will be able to get it for free if you go with Copilot? No, because Microsoft will charge for that, whoever it is, right? So here we are not talking about that aspect at all, because there are a lot of plus and minus both sides, right? So here we are talking about my document. I don't want to let anybody to connect my document. If you are that, this is one of the reason why you can take it. Because when you compare the cost part, there are pros and cons, and maybe it will be equal or whatever. If you're concerned about your data and you don't want to sign any agreement with anybody, if you want to keep it yourself, you have the resource. If you want to keep it offline, then you can. But this is not the ultimate solution. I will not say that, right? But again, to answer to your question, the infrastructure part, this is what I was just thinking. Why I did not catch that? Because infrastructure part, still it is there. Even if you go to any solution, right, that cost still you're paying either one way or the other. But let's not make it a marketing session. So this is just a knowledge share on Microsoft.
I will give one example, like the benefit of open source, just because we are discussing it. Consider that the one of the government, let's say the United States said that I don't want to ship my model to anywhere in the world. What will happen? Everything will be blocked. With open source, you can have that downloaded for yourself.
That's the kind of open art we have.
Yeah. So this is like consider the Postgres versus SQL as well.
Yes.
Postgres is open source, SQL is or Oracle is paid. Okay, the paid means that a company owns it, the other one is the community owns it. Although, like even you just get the Postgres, there will be a company who will be supporting you. There are companies, so it doesn't mean that it's cheaper than cost, but you have the access to a source code. So then if tomorrow the companies goes bankrupt or anything like that, you can still own the assets. That's like the main advantage rather than the cost itself.
Yeah, maybe companies who doesn't want to share any data and they don't worry about the infrastructure cost, then they can go.
See, again,
Anthropic does the closed model structure. They don't reveal what are the models and how the model will work. Like the cloud sonnet and everything. You can use the apps for free, and there is a limitation. You can pay for the service, and you can go ahead with the development and everything. But they don't reveal their models. You cannot download their models; they're not available.
You don't need an open source LLM for your RAG to work. You can use OpenAI. There is in this here itself, you can actually have that Open API key. You can pay the LLM and you can download it. The idea is I don't want to share my document. So here I'm using, see, if for this variable, if I instead of using Mistral, if I use the OpenAI, I'm going to use OpenAI LLM. Right, so it is not an open source. It's a paid. It has a support. It has everything. R&D. Everything is there. But here the advantage of using this is I am not sharing my document with anyone. Right. So here I can use Mistral or OpenAI or Llama 2 or 5. So again, let's go through this very quickly. So here. So here what we are doing is I'm just declaring the variables. Okay, here. So I have. So I need to decide, right, which LLM I'm going to use. So I have a variable called model. I can use. So for this particular right now, which LLM I'm using Mistral. So if I uncomment it and if I use file, then my application will use the file LLM. Okay. Now I'm importing Olama. So here again, I have my Olama here. Okay, I'm going to import. There are two things here. One is I'm importing Olama. Okay, Olama, you are going to import the Olama class from LangChain community model. This class is designed to integrate Olama language model in LangChain framework. So here what we need to do is I need LangChain, I need Olama. Why I need Olama is to connect to my LLM. Right? Why I need LangChain is to connect, send that response and the most retrieved information to the LLM. So for that I need LangChain. So we are going to import these libraries. And Olama embedding I'm going to use to convert my document to embedding, vector embeddings. Okay, so I declared my variable, I declared my embedding model as Olama embedding. And here I'm just checking whether I'm able to connect to my LLM. No knowledge base, nothing, no vector embeddings, nothing. Here what I did is we just downloaded the LLM and I'm using model.invoke and I'm saying tell me a joke. So if I can run this, actually I have already run this in the morning. So let's see the joke which he said. So here it is saying that it's a classic joke for you. Why don't scientists trust items? Because they make up everything. So some funny joke. I expect everybody to laugh. Yeah, thank you.
It's too obvious for the.
I will ask some other joke. Let's see what it is saying. Let us see if it is, because it might hang because this is just a laptop, right? So actually I ran all these things for today. See, just to give a joke, it is taking 14 seconds. That itself is a joke, right? Why don't programmers like nature? Because it has too many bugs. It's a genuine joke, right? Actually. Now let's go to the next step. Okay, so here if you see the kind of response, it's not what I need. I need to have some kind of a formatting, some kind of a passing. So here what I'm doing is I'm started using my LangChain. So what I'm doing is chain equal to model pipeline parser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invoke the chain. I'm going to give the response to through my LangChain to the parser so that it will format it. Okay, so now if I say it will format it in a, like, it will show, it does not have so many slash ends and all these things, special characters, right? So it said another joke. Why math book is so sad? Because it has too many problems. Actually, this kind of joke I got when I used Mistral. When I used 5LLM, it was a very bad joke. I couldn't laugh.
That's the main thing. That if you get bad jokes, that's why you will get disappointed.
It's a very serious model.
Yeah.
The joke evaluation.
Now let's go to, so now what we tested is, we tested that our LLM is connected and it is working. Okay. So there's a concept called as template. Template, now you might have seen even ChatGPT, it's like much more professional the way it responds. If I ask something that is a very good question, this, that, and all, it will say that's actually a template. So I can select my template and I can say how I should respond to my user. Instead of just giving the response, I can say, okay, this is by the name of the person, this is a very intelligent question, thanks for asking this, and then give the response. So this is about the template. So here I'm declaring the template. Again, I use this template in my LangChain later. So what I will do is I will get the query, I will use my vector embeddings, then I will use the template, and then I will send it to LLM. So the response will be better. Now see, now chain prompt model parser. So prompt model parser. Okay. So here I'm not using. Now I'm going to see whether things are working fine slowly, right? So I'm giving a context. My parents named me Raj. What is my name? So here my knowledge basis is context. The context is my parents named me Raj. And the question I'm asking is, what is my name? So it will say that your parent named you Raj. Your name is Raj, right? So if I say, what is my age? Because in this knowledge base, it does not have the age, right? So if I ask what is my age, that it does not have that knowledge. It will say something, right? We'll see.
I was giving one example like this, and the person asked me, "But you are cheating. You have already given the answer in there." So I said, "Yes, that's the purpose."
Yeah. So he said, "I don't know, as the text does not provide any information about your age." So if I say my age is blank, so this is just a test, okay? Now we are going to import the PyPDF loader. So this is again a library to upload my PDF. So here I have just one document. This is a document from one of the university in UAE where they are offering computer science programs. Okay. So this document has all the colleges in UAE which offers computer science program. So you will see the price. You will see all these things, right? So here I'm going to load my document to my program. Okay, this is a document loader class in LangChain designed to load the content from a PDF file. It extracts the content and the text and you send it for further processing. Now I'm just testing whether I can see, like 4 pages in page, just print the content. Okay, so it is going to that PDF and it is printing the content. Now I'm going to search whether the question which you asked, right? I'm going to search something in the document using doc in-memory search. I'm not using any LLM. I'm just asking, tell me this is another knowledge base. Okay, this is the knowledge. And initially, I downloaded another PDF of a resume of a person for testing purpose. So I was just asking, instead of going through the document, I will just ask what is the role of the SAP service delivery manager. So it will actually connect to that particular resume and it will pull the information where he worked as an SAP service delivery manager. That was one document. So here I'm asking best national universities in UAE for computer science. So here I'm not using LLM. I'm just using the vector search. I'm seeing whether I'm able to get the result from there. So it says this particular query is there in these particular pages. See, it is going to retrieve, it is retrieving the most suitable information for my query, right? So I have this university document is like, I think 10 or 15 pages. So it says that the question which you asked is there in the page 2. The most affordable university in UAE for computer science. Again, I'm not using LLM, so it is just giving the page number. So let us go to the real one. Has asked some set of questions. There was one with slide one Malayalam also. I'm from Kerala. So I just want to check whether my LLM can understand. Actually, it was able to understand. So here I asked, like, first question is actually, which is the best university for learning computer science in UAE? That I asked, actually I asked in English and then I changed it to my mother tongue language. So it is able to understand that and it gave the correct answer. The correct answer for that is Khalifa University and United Arab Emirates universities rank among the top universities in that area, for example. Then fees for each university, right? So here what I'm doing is actually I can send it as one question and get the response, or I can pass it as an array to in the question and I can get the response. So here if I start running this, it took 32 minutes. The morning I just tried. If I start reloading, it will take time. So these are the questions which I asked, and these are the response which he gave. So now based on the what we need to do is we need to develop a front-end application like a bot, and you have to have a input. You need to get the query. You need to pass this query to this application, and it will do the remaining things.
I will give a quick example. How many of you are using like the co-pilot maybe in your emails? Okay. So consider that in the morning when I come, okay, I have 1,100 emails. The first thing I ask, please summarize my email. Okay, just give me, it's the same thing. It retrieve the unread emails and it summarize everything. The next thing I ask, please highlight the ones in which the email is addressed to me as an example. It will just highlight those emails. I don't have to go to 1,000 emails. Then I just say, okay, the emails which are sent from my managers, please reply back that I will get back to you by next day, as an example. So this is all the application. But here, what Ashraf is explaining to you, that once you understand the concept, then you can build any complex applications on top of it.
Yeah, and the most important thing is we need to, the first thing what you can try is this will work anyway. What you need to do is I'm just trying that, just instead of the file name, give the folder name. Right, so let it go and take all the documents, and it is easy. Just you need to do some tweaking.
One question here. You didn't provide any model parameters like temperature and anything over here?
Temperature?
Like there are some parameters. Those are not provided here.
Maybe the default, maybe they stick to default ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one?
There are different parameters.
Temperature, those parameters also we could set while calling and
Controls the hallucination level.
Tuning. Right?
yeah, tuning.
It's a pretty good question. You want to set it lower because you're bringing stuff into your context and you want it to pay to that rather than selecting tokens that are not relevant to what you're doing.
So that's why it can be a bit set.
That's probably a way to do it.
I'm done actually. We have any questions, guys?
Why not use Open Web UI?
Open web.
Yeah, that's a library. It will give you like a front end.
Front end. That's pretty fun. Actually, see, I just default. I'm not going to use it anyway. This is it. Because in my office, they will go with our partners.
You want to pay.
Yes, you need to understand, right? It's because
Put those context. So it's also no put those to Open Web UI. That's it. Quick install Open Web UI.